Well, let's go take a look at this sunrise. Very nice, but it is overcast. Well, good morning, Rovers. It is our 14th day at sea, and we're about 200 nautical miles from Baltimore, Ireland. Well, you better buckle up because it's going to be a wild ride today. The wind has already started backing. Now, backing means that the wind is rotating in a counterclockwise way, and it's beginning to freshen. So we're at about 15 knots right now, no big deal, and it's becoming from the southwest, but we're expecting up to 31 knots in just a few hours. Well, if you're new to the channel, Wave Rover is a 21-foot plywood junk rig sailboat that I built in my backyard back in Canada. We've sailed from Prince Edward Island in Canada down the east coast of the United States, and then recently we left Virginia and we sailed to the Azores across the Atlantic, and now we're sailing from the Azores to Baltimore, Ireland. Now, if you find these videos educational, inspirational, downright entertaining, consider becoming a patron. There's a link in the video description below. Well, it's nice and cozy down here, but let's head up on deck and see what it's really like outside. It was a warm summer's evening just after supper. And earlier in the day, we had raked the hay in what we call the secret meadow, a field that we weren't grazing with our cattle that year. Mrs. Rover and I, after supper, headed out with our pitchforks. The wagon I had built was already in the field as the tractor had pulled it out earlier in the day. Now we were pitching hay up onto the wagon and bringing the hay in. It's such a time-honored thing, making hay, and we were determined to make the best quality hay we possibly could, and that meant not using or using the minimum number of machines possible to make that hay, because that hay would be the food source for our cattle in the barn that winter. As we completed the task, it was a nice warm evening, and the sun had already set, and we were in the twilight zone. And I'm driving the tractor back, and Mrs. Rover is hanging off the side of the tractor, standing on the step. And the fireflies came out. And we're driving along and just realizing not only how lucky we were that we could do what we were doing, but it was such a perfect evening. Our muscles, we had used that day to great extent. We were driving back on the most pleasant of evenings with those fireflies, heading to the barn with the food source that would feed our cattle for the coming winter. Such a marvelous memory. Well, Rovers, it's been quite a ride today, from starting out with, well, not a lot of wind to having a lot of wind. We were 27 knots at the peak, and the seas, well, they were a little confused because the wind did veer and then back again, giving us probably 3 different angles of waves that we were dealing with. And right now, a little over 12 hours since it started, we're down to practically no wind. But we still have those wave trains coming at us from a few different angles. We probably have maybe 5 knots of wind right now, and that would be enough to normally carry us along, except that with these cross seas, we're kind of wallowing. You know, we have wind in our sail, and then we get picked up by a wave, the sail empties out, and it just goes over and over and over again. Now tomorrow we're going to have a similar situation. We're going to have winds that will be in excess of 30 knots, but unlike today, they will be sustained throughout Friday and Saturday, and I hope to be in Baltimore by Saturday. So as always, folks, thanks for watching, and forge your own adventure.